My name's Austin,
And I'm Laurie.
and we've been living at Calvary since May, and we've been foster parents for just about 2 years now. As I think about our foster care experience and our journey in foster care, I feel like Calvary Home has really given us a greater capacity to walk in the calling that God has on our lives to be foster parents. Before we came to Calvary Home, we lived in a rather small home. It was a 3-bedroom house that ideally is best suited for one foster child. Sometimes we can make it work with 2, but realistically and comfortably, it was just one child, which is great. That's what we did for about a year and a half with a little 10-year-old boy. But as we felt our hearts being, pushed and changed by the Lord and just really walking out our calling, we wanted to be able to foster at a greater capacity. So when I think about our foster care journey and how Calvary has come alongside that and has further supported us in that journey and living out this calling, I think about the need for foster parents to take sibling groups. Lauren used to work within the foster care system before we became foster parents, before we moved here, and is really uniquely aware of the need for foster parents to be able to take sibling groups. So when a sibling group comes into care, especially larger sibling groups, more times than not, those siblings get separated. And they are then forced to go to foster homes, to different foster homes, likely by themselves. And so then they're walking through this traumatic experience of being removed from their homes, removed from their parents, and now removed from their siblings, who are probably the only people that are going to really understand exactly what they're walking through. And so one of our big goals and one of our callings, I feel like, is to be able to say yes to those sibling groups. So coming to Calvary has given us the ability to have a greater capacity for foster care, so that we can say yes to those sibling groups. And pretty shortly after we moved into Calvary Home, we were able to say yes. And so right now we have a sibling group of 3, a 15-year-old and 2 13-year-old girls that I believe if we weren't here at Calvary Home and we weren't able to say yes to that, I think they would have come into care. I think they would have been separated. And I think that they would be walking through this journey alone, away from their siblings. And so I think one of the neatest things about Calvary is the ability for us to have such a greater capacity in order to keep sibling groups together.
Yeah, so when we think about our fostering journey and the children that we've had in our home, there's one specific child that comes to mind. His name was Hopper, and he lived with us for just over a year and a half. And for a really long time, we tried to support him and his family through reunification. And that was a really big hope for everyone for a long time, until about last summer. We were told that his mom had completed her treatment plan and that they were looking to terminate parental rights. And so it was hard to kind of shift gears and think about what his future would be like. But then it shifted gears again in the fall, and his mom completed his treatment plan, and he was looking at going home. And when I think about him in our home, he was extremely bright, definitely the smartest kid that I had ever met. And we really just tried to foster that growth, like in his education and in his social skills and things like that while he lived with us. And so whenever he left, we tried to do a going away party. And so we had everyone write all the things that they loved about him on a board. And whenever he was reading through all the things, he was crying, and he ended up writing something that he loved about himself on the board. And the thing that he wrote was his relationship with Jesus was his favorite thing about himself. And so I just can't help but think that hopefully that relationship with Jesus was fostered while he's in our home with us and going to church and being here at Calvary Home with us. And hopefully that's something that he'll be able to take to his family. And I do know that they've been going to church and things like that. So I hope that he takes that with him as he was finally able to go home to his mom.